Hello and welcome to the weekly press review where we bring you analysis of the week's news. Here today we'll be looking at some headlines from the papers. I have Daily Graphic here, the Ghanaian Times, and we'll be tackling some major stories that has gone on within the week. My name is Rebekah Awuah. So from the papers, we have 1,000 Nigerian illegal immigrants repatriated. From the Daily Graphic, rains batter Accra roads. The minister deploys mobile maintenance unit to fix problems. And we have Green Ghana Day also there. And Ghana records 5 cases of monkeypox that can be found in page 16 of the Daily Graphic. Now, the Ghanaian Times also reports of Ghana recording 5 monkeypox cases, and the Ghana Health Service urges public to take precautionary measures to avoid spread. And the president has also inaugurated 175 million cereal manufacturing plant in Tema, and that is in the Ghanaian Times. You can get the paper and read more about that. We have bushmeat is toxic. Now let's look at the Daily Graphic and the nation's auto hub losing luster and flats push dealers out, and that is on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. Update your records with your Ghana card. It's also there. 2022 Green Ghana Day. Lands Ministry targets 20 million trees, and that is today. Yes, and you can find that on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. And Insurance Awareness Month also relaunched. Now, this on the Ghanaian Times on June 8, 2022, danger looms on Malam Kaswa Highway, and as mud flood takes over toll booth at Old Barrier Stretch. And you can see that on page 16 on Wednesday, June 8th of the Ghanaian Times. And here to food crops in mining areas undergo radiological pollution test. And it is on page 15 of the Ghanaian Times on June 8, 2022. Man killed, others injured in renewed communal clash in Boko. Shops, schools, hospitals also closed. And you can find that and more on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. That is dated June 8 this year. Let's get to the Daily Graphic, and on 7th of June, it reported on promoting small-scale mining. Gold processing machines unveiled, and the devices can recover up to 90% of gold. And that is the story making the headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic on June 7th. And father in money ritual case also remanded. You can find that story on page 20 of the Daily Graphic. We have the minister, Kissi also saying that the motorway reconstruction will begin in August. Those stories and more is on the front page, and you can find the details. Let's get to the Ghanaian Times again, and you can see a story there. The banner headline said, efforts to stop mercury use in gold mining boost for small-scale mining as president inaugurates 100 mercury-free gold processing machines. And you can see the minister there together with the president, Kpodo, viewing some gold particles during a demonstration exercise when the event took place. And that story is on page 16 of the Ghanaian Times. And the Dr. Patrick Komla, the DG of the Ghana Health Service, says Ghana's COVID-19 cases increase after relaxing safety protocols. And that story is on page 19. And we have Mr. John Awuah there saying that 9 banks have partnered government to roll out U-Start. And we have those stories and more in the Ghanaian Times. Now to the Daily Graphic. On the 6th of June, local textbooks printing begins, and 5 printers have confirmed action, and you can find that story on page 3 of the Daily Graphic. And public sector workers overpaid. That is one of the major stories within the week. The public sector workers are being overpaid according to the government statistician, and that popular story can also be read on page 16 on the Daily Graphic dated June 6, 2022. There you can find Green Ghana, the Lands Ministry designates seedling centers, and ECOWAS determined to sustain constitutional rule. That is by the President, Adomako, Kpodo, and it's on page 16. ECOWAS fails to slap new sanctions. Still, the Ghanaian Times reports that at an Accra Extraordinary Summit and against 3 West African military rulers, and is on page 16 of the Ghanaian Times. And from Brighter Pier, he says, stop circulating video of children who suffer ill treatment or abuses. And this is coming from him. And the national security warns of suspicious movements at Garu, Bunkpurugu, and notifies GFA and police, and is on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. And that also is on the 6th of June. There are more stories that will be coming up, and you need to grab the papers and read more. Go online and get to know more about what is happening within our country. And right, so those were the papers for the week and the headlines within the week. You can grab the papers yourself and get to know the details from the papers. But today on the program, we are looking at few topics here. We'll be taking a look at the Green Ghana project that is happening today. And we'll also take a look at the overpayment of public sector workers, 5 cases of monkeypox recorded in our country, and we'll look at Ex-Gratia, and we know we'll also tackle the whole story surrounding Togbi Apede, also rejecting that Ex-Gratia on the program today. This is the weekly press review, and with me to do this, I have Honorable Benjamin Kpodo. He is the MP for Ho Central and also a member of 3 other committees in Parliament, Finance, Local Government, and the Privileges Committee, and we will be delving more into the issues soon. I would be joined by Dr. Dickson Adomako Kissi, who is the MP for Anyaa Sowutuom. Join us also via WhatsApp on 0557 446 429, 0557 446 429. And once you send in the messages, we'll be glad to let the world know what you're thinking. Right. Welcome, sir. Let's look at the Green Ghana project.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm meeting you
for the first time. I am meeting you for the first time. I'm glad I'm doing so.
Yes, I'm also glad. At the same time, we take the opportunity to extend our regards to the people of Ghana on this special day, especially people of my constituency, Ho Central. You have held me here today. I should have been with them for the tree planting exercise, but this is also a national duty which I have to respond to. I hope, however, that my people will take interest in the project and do something about planting trees to green Ghana around their homes, around the streets, so that we can all be protected, we can have good oxygen, and we can live well, because our parents lived in the forests. They were mostly surrounded by forests, trees and grass. And they lived longer, far, far longer. So you see there is some benefit to derive from living in a green community. And the report has it that we've lost about 80% of our forest land since 1900. So we have to make conscious effort to regreen our country. And the efforts that we have to make are, how do I put it, are deliberate. It will not come by chance. They have to be deliberate so that over the nearest future, we can regreen or reforest our country. You see, it is not just a question of planting. The Minister for Lands, our colleague, Adomako, said that about 70% of the trees planted in the first exercise are doing well. Well, the question is, why not more? And how sure are we of that figure, that percentage as well? So the issue is not just planting the tree today and then walking away. We need to sustain it. We need to sustain it. And I urge Ghanaians to sustain tree planting anywhere they find themselves, around their houses, in their farms, even around the gold mining areas, so that over time we will regreen or reforest our country. There are several benefits to derive from that. It has been over labored, so I wouldn't want to go into that again. But there is something very, very important for me. That is maintaining the trees that we have planted. So the maintenance aspect of it is very, very important, because, you know, trees rely on the soil, that is the earth, and water to grow. If we just go and drop them in the earth and walk away, we walk away. You can go back in a few weeks' time to find that they are gone. They are dead. Even the flower garden around my house, I've decided to plant trees. But even though I was watering them, sometimes I do it personally, I realized later on that about 5 of them died. So I had to go and buy new plants to come and replant. So the maintenance aspect of it is also very, very key. I would even urge the minister to declare days in months which he deems fit for maintenance of the trees. So today is Green Ghana, we are planting. Let's have another Green Ghana, which is maintenance, purely maintenance of the trees we have planted. So everybody who plants a tree today should identify where he has planted 1, 2, 3, or 4. We are aiming at 20 million. If you have planted 10, ensure that you know where they are. Then in a month's time or so, we should go back and visit them and see whether they have germinated, whether they are doing well or not. Otherwise, it will be a wasteful exercise. We've spent a lot of money. The minister said we had $7 million to do the other one. Now we are spending money again. People are, you know, doing fanfare. It's part of money. This morning, the president with the minister launched the project in one community.
Let me take you quickly to the Parliament House, and an exercise is ongoing there as part of the Green Ghana project. We'll get that feed shortly, but you're talking about finances. So
yes, so
finish with that.
We shouldn't just waste the money, we've made caps. I've seen them around. We've made T-shirts, one of which I'm wearing. And as you just said, I just went to Parliament. I've seen that Parliament is also organizing a ceremony to participate properly in the exercise. The speaker will be there. So we spend a lot of money buying seedlings, buying soil, this manure, and other things to plant the trees. What we should do is to sustain the maintenance of these trees so that we don't just waste the money in a fanfare and, you know, after some weeks, the trees are dead. So we are back to square one.
In your estimation, are you saying that printing of the caps and the polo shirts and all is a waste of money?
No, they are awareness creation. But what I'm saying is that after that, when we have done all of this, we should sustain the maintenance of the trees so that we could get the real benefits. The trees should germinate and grow because we have removed them from some nursery and gone to plant them. They should be watered. They should be watered to germinate. We don't just do it today and walk away. That's what I'm saying. That if we have spent money to create awareness and for people to go actually on the field to go and plant, we should not abandon the exercise because we have completed today's exercise. A day is not enough to make a tree grow. That is my point.
A day indeed is not enough to make a tree grow. But in the first place, should we cut down our trees, knowing the implication of climate change and all of those, to get another funding to do replanting?
No. That is why I was talking about how we make sure that these trees grow so that we don't have to go and bring them. Of course, cutting trees are a normal way of living as well. For instance, when the cocoa farmer goes to the farm to clear the land, he definitely has to cut some trees down. But that's why we encourage that they replant even within their farms. Then it is not only cutting down.
Okay, so on our screens, we have the President Anyaa Kpodo together with the Minister. He just planted his tree, and I'm sure they will have a name for it, right? As in previous times, and they will ensure it grows. And Honorable, as you're saying, it will be maintained.
Yes.
Yes, the sustenance is key.
Yes.
But you were on a point before we got that feed.
Yes. You see, it is even more important for us to identify and sustain areas that we have grown trees. That is why we have forest reserves. So if we spend a lot of money, a lot of time to grow trees, and then later on we go and degrade them again, people taking the lands where the trees have been planted over as their personal property to build houses there, and the forest gets degraded. What use then do we have going back to replant or reforest? Take the case of the Achimota forest. It's one of the best that has been sustained as a forest reserve for this country. Then all of a sudden, people go and they start selling them for private development under the guise of returning some portion to the families. Let's see what has been given back to the family. But what about all those people who have gone to buy plots over there? Are they also family members? That is the question. So we cannot spend effort and money to plant or raise forests only for them to be given to private people whom we all describe as selfish, to cut down the trees and build houses taking away the forest from where we have kept them. If you go to even my constituency, we have some government land reserved over there. But in recent times, they have sold the places out. They have sold the land out, and people are beginning to build there. Where will the forest be? You see, we need to build houses, but we must identify where we have to go and put up our houses, not forest reserves. That exactly is what I'm
driving at.
Yes, that's what I'm driving at. That we should build the forest reserves, keep them as such, so that we can derive the benefits from the green situation that we want for our country. We shouldn't just be joking. Today we say green Ghana and tomorrow clear the forest. What is that? Are we serious then? No. So policymakers should target how to ensure that our forests are preserved for the benefit of Ghana.
Without which, what happens?
Well, if you have a desert, if you have ever gone to the upper portion of our continent, then you will see what a desert does. The desert has no benefit in terms of crop farming. And when the wind blows, it carries dust all across. So it affects your health. Now, trees protect houses when the wind blows. But if you don't have any trees around, you know, trees are very, very difficult to plant in the desert. But even there, people are doing their best. If there is no tree which serves as wind breaks, houses, roofs will be just flying off whenever there is wind. It even encourages the wind to be faster, to have greater speed. I lived in Sokoto State before. Okay. I was in my house, no trees around, and then the wind started blowing. I was watching when the whole roof was ripped off, carried and thrown to the other side of the house. So I was standing there in the rest of the rain. Had to find a way of abandoning the house. So the desert is not very good for human habitation. That is why we need the forest around us to protect us, to make our life and living a good one. Not that you see, when we continue to cut the forest, burn it, then what happens? We are gradually inching towards making our lands desert areas. And that will not be good for us. Yes.
But let's look at the arrangement and the target that we are looking at achieving. 20 million trees, that is our target. And once it's implemented, it will help in our degraded forest reserves. Is it achievable?
Well, it is good to set target for yourself whenever you want to undertake a project. It is good to set a target and work towards it. If we want to plant 20 million trees today, we can estimate the number of people who will be able to achieve that. We are 30 million people in Ghana. So what the minister is saying is that even if you plant one, and we get a target of 66% of the population, we will realize 20 million trees. But the fact that you have so many people on the land does not mean so many such people will carry out or engage in the exercise today. So, for instance, I'm sure that the president is not planting only one. In our various areas, people should seek to plant 10 or 20. That's why they are organizing it in this manner. So those who are able to embark upon the project, they should make efforts to plant more than one, so that at the end of it, or even if we attain 75% of the target, it's a success. So I will urge everybody to engage in the exercise. We are here, but that's why I said earlier that it's not a one-day show. We can also engage in it. I have been doing that, so we can later on join our people on our other days to do planting. And what I want you to note is that this project is supported on a bipartisan basis. Both sides of the House in Parliament have given support to this project. That's why even today, Parliament is not sitting to enable members of Parliament to lead the efforts in their constituencies or wherever they could reach between yesterday and today before the exercise commences.
I'm tempted to ask, have you planted your tree already?
Oh, I've told you that.
You have to leave Owo Central to come on set.
Yes, I have to attend to this national duty too. But I am constantly planting trees. If you go to my house, you see trees around me. Green grass, green trees, and I take delight in watering them myself. That is why I am able to observe their progress. If it is not good, I, will call for a replacement. I have mango trees in my house, in my village.
That's right.
Yes, and I have a green, about 30% of my house is green. Yes, so I'm a fan of greening our environment. So even though I'm here, there's a lot which is happening behind. That's
right. Let me welcome the Honorable MP for Anyaa Sowutuom Dr. Dickson, Adomako Kissi. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have been talking about the Green Ghana project.
Doc, you're welcome.
This is a bold step. Yes, it is another bold step to restore our degraded and deforested landscape. In your view, how do you see this intervention?
Well, first of all, let me commend GBC for making time to discuss this, because the media has a strong role in making sure that this agenda is something that we see happen, and to also engage a lot more people into this planting of trees. So let me commend GBC for that, and then also add that I'd encourage all media houses to spend some time to discuss this, so that it becomes something we talk about, and encourage it so that it's not just today, and we embark on this journey every day. I was actually the vice chair for Environment, Science and Tech until recent, so it's something that has been dear to my heart in terms of keeping the environment safe and sound and livable for all of us. Now, this has been a very wonderful week, really. If you're thinking about environment, there was a World Environment Day on Sunday,
yeah,
and then we had Oceans Day on Wednesday, and then today we're planting trees. So I think this week has been remarkable in terms of initiatives about trees and keeping our environment clean and clean from plastics. So today's event, I saw Minister talk at the Ifua Sutherland Park, and we thank God that happened before the rains are upon us. And I managed to plant my tree momentarily after the minister's closing remarks. I did mine at my constituency, that's why I'm a bit late here today. But I did 2 trees. And today, my message really goes out to the ordinary Ghanaian. I'm pleading that we plant something close to where we live, so that we can nurture them. And government will do the parks and other places, but the ordinary people who are receiving trees at their mosque, receiving trees at their churches, at schools, marketplaces, and let me add that all municipals are ready to give you if you want to plant. So you can go to your local municipal or district and they'll be very ready through the offices of NADMO to supply you with trees. In case you are an environment group or an environment club or even a Keep Fit club, and you feel like this weekend that's what you'd love to embark on, please call on your assembly man or woman, and they would help you get a tree. Now, speaking of deforestation, one of the devastating things is the erosion that happens and the loss of minerals in the soil through the lack of what we call canopies, which are produced by lots of trees. And I really think that Ghana should come to terms with one key thing. Out of all of this, climate change is real. I mean, people want hard sciences, but it is real. Why do I say that? The volume of water we are receiving, the number of hours it rains for, and the number of days it rains for are all increasing. And we better be careful to assume that global change isn't real. And then more importantly, we are vulnerable. Unfortunately so, because our drains are not working, our roads are not working, and it makes Ghana vulnerable. And we need to be bold, admit that we're vulnerable, and then make a strong case so that our drain infrastructure and road networks are catered for. So I really would, I think it's nice that we're talking about this, planting trees, and need I add that from a medical standpoint, we the human beings are producing carbon dioxide, and in exchange for good quality air, the trees are giving us the good air we need, which is oxygen. So we cannot sustain our lives if we don't sustain the lives of trees. And as they say, when the last tree dies, the last man dies.
Yes.
And when the last man dies, the trees will go on. The trees do not need us. We need the trees. And that should be our mantra. We ought to come to terms with the fact that our lives depend on them, not the reverse. Not the reverse. And the good book, which a lot of us read, the good Bible, is quite clear that trees came before us, and they are our seniors on this planet. And one of the themes of this year, after 50 years of World Environment Day, we are saying that we have one Earth to live on. Of all the planets, of all the galaxies, all the many things, there's one Earth to live on, and we better be good custodians of this land. We better be good stewards, whether your party colors are the NDC, whether your party colors are the MPP. I don't think the oxygen we take in.
I always ask green.
Well, no problemo. The air we take in has no colors. It's very important that, and I'm happy that Honorable Kpodo has said it bluntly, that on this one thing, both parties are in sync and pushing for it. And I'm happy to also announce that there are some things that we agree on heavily. And that is the environment.
Oh, really?
And I'm happy, that he's also reiterated that. So everybody out there, you have no excuse. Whether your religion is traditionalist, I'm almost half traditionalist.
Okay.
Whether your religion is traditionalist or, the Buddhists respect the earth. Mm-hmm. The Islamic religion pays a lot of respect to the earth. Christianity pays a lot of respect to the earth, and most countries, I mean, one of the key countries that does this yin and yang thing, which is the Chinese, the Asians, and the Japanese, have serious reverence for Mother Earth. And I think that, as you well know, as we are in Garland, when they are pouring libation, there's a lot of respect for Mother Earth. And if we continue to remember our tradition, we would abhor littering with plastics. We would abhor damaging trees. And in fact, before you cut one, plant one. Before you cut one down, plant one. so that minimum you're replacing what you're destroying. And on that note, I also commend architects in the country who are particularly interested in making sure that the landscaping is preserved or the integrity of the natural environment is respected as they do their architectural work in designing and putting buildings and infrastructure on the ground. So thank you very much, on your allowing us to discuss planting trees and planting so that we can sustain quality air and a quality lifestyle in this country. Right.
So we'll talk about our next topic soon. So we have been talking about the Green Ghana project, and we know it's happening today. Wherever you are, the target is to plant like half of the 20 million targets will be planted to help our forest cover. So wherever you are, just as it has been said, get one of the seedlings. It's for free, and you can plant it, you nurture it,
not
make it
free.
grow.
Government is paying for it.
Government is paying, so invariably, for the ordinary man, maybe somebody is at home thinking, once I get to the district office, yes, exactly.
No.
So
will you endorse a suggestion that we create a day like this for maintenance and sustenance of the trees which we are planting?
Well, you see, my concept, which I expressed earlier, is the fact that you plant close to home. And if you plant close to home, I'm assuming that you can nurture.
Sustenance is key,
you can nurture where you're planting. Beyond that, the NADMOs and the other agencies handling tree planting, we are lucky we'll have some rains for the next foreseeable months. Beyond that, I think that the appropriate thing is that the culture in our governmental institutions with regards to parks and gardens has to be revived. I think that in fairness, our parks and garden has not been resourced very well. I've been to other places, and when you talk of parks and gardens, it's well armed, well resourced, and that will take us to a whole different topic.
That's right.
But I really think that per our Ghanaian culture and tradition, plant close to home, nurture it. I think that's the most simple thing to do, so that you and I will even put some children in charge of it to make sure that when you see Kwekuvi, you ask Kwekuvi, did you water the plant today? And that also, helps in terms of training the next generation.
You see, the reason why I am insisting on that proposal is that we could equally do same for planting the trees. When I meet you, I ask you, have you planted a tree? When I meet him, have you watered the tree? But we are hyping the awareness today.
Correct.
So I want to see the minister organize a similar high-profile program for nurturing what we are planting today. Otherwise, after some time, by the time you go to Anyaa Sowutuom, those that you've planted today will just wither away. That is why I think that there should be a conscious effort also towards maintenance and sustainability.
Agreed.
Yes, that's my point. So we shouldn't end everything here.
Some have even proposed that we do digital mapping of the trees we plant, which then adds to the cost. But there are lots of ways. I think that as it stands, on a basic level, we can use Google Map to snap what we have now, and then snap in a year later. And this is a challenge to some of the media houses. You can take a photographic, scenario of wherever planting has occurred today, and then make sure that a year today you can do before and after. And that is a challenge to media houses and a challenge to municipals. And if I had won the lottery, I would have said that, hey, whoever gives me a before and after quite well can win an award. And maybe we ought to.
But don't you didn't win a lottery before you do that?
You know what I mean by win a lottery. we better pull in the NLA, National Lottery Authority, to also sponsor part of this. In that sense, that you know, they put people through a draw if their before and after images are beautiful.
Especially having in mind the long-term effect that it brings, especially with the issue of climate change.
Yes.
Yes, because that was not how our environment used to be years before. But how did we get here?
One other bad problem. We have a bad culture. If a car should have an accident on our roads and knock off a tree, if it's a pole, I know that some arrangements are there, but if it's a tree,
to get them fixed,
there are no arrangements for our trees. So I'll throw that challenge to the police, MTT, the departments, that when cars knock down trees, they should be as equally concerned as they are concerned about street lights, because it is of utmost important. So between now and next year, some of the trees that get knocked down by our drivers, and me included, I mean, any driver can mistakenly knock down a tree. We ought to replace those trees when it happens.
But we shouldn't take...
That would be our final one, so we get to our next.
Yeah, you shouldn't take cutting of trees as a criminal offense in itself, because we sometimes see the leaves and branches of trees grow across electricity lines.
Correct.
So there will be the need to trim them. And where trees grow and they become a danger to the surroundings, we need to trim them. But I know there is a rule that you have to seek permission from the environmental people before you cut those types of trees. So it is necessary, and that's part of the maintenance. It's necessary to trim trees where they become a danger to human life, because in all of this, we want to protect human life, as my colleague has said. So if it becomes dangerous, something must be done about it. But as he said, if you take off one, put a minimum of one in each place.
Right. Let's look at our next topic, overpayment of public sector workers.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this on page 16 of the Daily Graphic dated Monday, June 6th. And it's saying that the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobnenim, has said workers in the public sector are generally overpaid for work done. And he said averagely public sector workers are paid double of their output, and he has therefore called for the creation of a public productivity committee of parliament to work like the Public Accounts Committee and ensure that ministries, departments and agencies and the public sector in general deliver output commensurate with their earnings. Overpayment. If somebody is overpaid, what does it really mean?
All right. So, do I get to go first?
You can.
You know, personally, I haven't listened to him. I've heard other reports of him denying what he said, or maybe there's a possible misconstruing of what he actually meant. But may I say this, that I think that one of the greatest things that happened to Ghana was under the leadership of President Kufuor in terms of cementing single spine salary. And why do I say that? It formalized, you know, ranges of salaries that people receive in this country for the rank or for the job position or title they hold. There used to be numerous categories, some made by human resource managers at various institutions. Not to tackle or fight with GBC, but I'm sure that prior to single spine, GBC salaries were erratic in the sense that somebody's niceness may afford them the ability to get more pay than the average. So that if we take presenters here, it was probably not on a scale where it's based on seniority, you get this or that. So I think that, one, we have to know where we were and appreciate where we have arrived at, which is the single spine scenario, where you can assume that once you get out of police today, this is at least how much you're getting paid. Once you get out of medical school, this is what you're getting paid. And I really think that has come to better our compensation structure in this country. So we need to be mindful of that and appreciate it. Now, with regards to employees or workers or staff members and their pay, we are in a tight scenario in this country, especially because of the rising prices of expenses and your disposable income. The disposable income, as an economist will tell you, is after you've gotten your money and taken out government share and taken out, let's say, your savings towards retirement, what you have left to spend has shrunk because of the increasing cost of water to drink, increasing cost of our bills. And let me add that our phone bills are eating into our salaries a lot because of data we're buying and all these things that we weren't doing before. So, nobody is ever paid enough. I mean, that is just the nature of our lifestyle. If I enter into a company as a cashier, I wouldn't feel paid enough. If I'm promoted from cashier to manager for the cashier workers, I still wouldn't feel paid enough. And that is a natural thing when it comes to incentives for jobs. And I must say that even the president of this country, I doubt if he feels that the work he does for the nation is well commensurated or the compensation is adequate. I can choose the likes of Donald Trump, also of Americas, who might also feel that he wasn't paid enough. So one, no worker in this world will ever feel that, oh, the salary I'm taking is adequate. Now, the key question is that we ought to ask ourselves, is our output adding value? And if it is it important that we make sure that if you're a sales rep and you're bringing 1 billion to a company, how much does the company require, or is the company required to pay you? That is the key question. So I think that one, our wage bill is huge. That one is a fact. Our wage bill is huge. So if you're talking about the wage bill in this country and the revenues of government being limited or small compared to the wage bill, then that one I can agree with the statistician that considering the wage bill, the number of people in this country, and the scenario of government as a whole, then that key point is valid. That, you know, our wage bill is almost becoming unsustainable per government revenue, per what we bring in, and I would hope that is what he was trying to get at. You know, I would hope that he was trying to tell the average Ghanaian that when we put all the work that Ghanaian civil servants do together in terms of revenue, and we put how much they take home, it is not congruous. It is not in sync. You know, in some of the corporations out there, there are strict guidelines in terms of the percentage of revenue that should be going towards administrative work, in terms of percentage of monies that should be going to the employees of the company. And I think that when you look at our current situation, in truthfulness, and this is apolitical, the wage bill and the revenues are lopsided. The revenues are down, the wages raging on strong and trying to take on a fat bit of the pie. So I would hope that is what our statistician was trying to get at, that Ghanaians, or as a nation, we ought to be very minded and careful about the trend we are on, where more and more government sector workers' wages or governmental institution wages are surpassing what comes into the government chest. and you know why.
I will do a follow-up quickly, but with respect to the statement by the government statistician, he was actually on a sister station and has said that contrary to the widespread narrative in the public domain, he was on a breakfast show. He said that contrary to the widespread narrative in the public domain, he has not asserted that public sector workers in the country are overpaid. According to the economics professor, the statement which has been attributed to him are false and misconstrued and therefore should be dismissed. He said this on Tuesday and stated that in his earlier comments, he only sought to initiate a healthy debate about the interplay between productivity in the public sector and how that impacts the country's overall gross domestic product. The bottom line is that I never said public sector workers are overpaid. No, I didn't say that public sector workers are being overpaid. I introduced the conversation on productivity. I did it in the context of 4 other variables.
What are those
So I think is beautiful.
Perhaps I can get those here from the papers.
What I was saying is exactly what because I had heard that his intention was not to say that government workers are overpaid, but I think I side with him. I support largely what he's saying, that we need to be mindful of the fact that the wage bill is getting a bit out of control compared to what we bring in. And productivity is literally revenues. Productivity. But
you also admit that with inflation in mind, with the high cost of living, just as you have admitted, and again, public sector workers' salaries have been stagnant for years. Obviously, and with the introduction of the single spine salary structure, it's equal pay for a job of equal value. So obviously, overpayment in this sense does not come in. But if you're talking about productivity, then of course, what should amount to productivity?
So let me cite an example. And this has nothing to do with my dislike or likeness for the police service. But I always cite this example. Listen, all the itty-bit monies they take on the roadside, if it was going to government coffers, government would have then had, that productivity or that revenue increment, which then can almost offset the number of policemen on the field. And I say this with the greatest respect for the police service, but I'm just using them as an example. If you're an office somewhere taking additional monies for work done, and that money literally is supposed to go to government coffers, you are depriving Ghana of revenue. And these are the scenarios that lead to, as I'm saying, the unfortunate bit where our revenues are not matching the wage bill. And that is a fact. Likewise, any company out there, if close to 55% or above 55% of your earnings are going towards workers' salary, then you have a challenge, because you also have to pay electricity bill, water bill, you have to pay for supplies that you use at your business. So if we should take a restaurant, for instance, if you are looking at your rental agreement, how much you're paying for your place or your building, and if you're looking at what you're paying for governmental services in terms of taxes and everything, and then you realize that 60% of your monies is going to salaries, it is bad for business. And this is what the statistician is advising, that we ought to look at it. And it is not in bad taste that government looks at improving on its revenues, so that even if your wage bill or your salaries are going up because of the number of staff you are adding or the increment in their salaries, your revenue side is also increasing. There are some things that have improved. I mean, I know that with the introduction of digitalization at the ports, what has become obvious is that some increment, and I was in a program with the finance minister, and he cited one hotel, I think the hotel at Elmina. When they introduced the appropriate mechanisms, the hotel started making profits. So the same number of staff there were giving us negative returns. And once they introduced the appropriate mechanisms at the Elmina Hotel, revenues started going up, which then shows that under the same scenario, same staff members, surprisingly, technology has made productivity very vivid, very clear to us. And wherever we are as directors of companies, whether for government or for private, we ought to look at ways in which we can improve on revenue and as such, simply improve on productivity. And once we do that, I think that we will be in a better shape as a nation. And DVLA is one example. DVLA was a no, area, no place to go and have your license and your car registration processed in due time. But now, look at the scenario. And I would also commend the Foreign Affairs Minister to an extent, because now passport acquisition is so enjoyable. And that is another way where technology has improved productivity. So the same number of staff members, however, they are getting good salaries, and yet the revenue for government has shot up. Minus logistical issues where passport, became a challenge because of the printing or the lack of material for printing. I think that on a whole, these are positive stories where technology has come to improve on our productivity. So GBC, I think you recently acquired things from Japan to support your work, and I must tell you that your viewership has increased. I know for a fact, because now your picture quality has improved and it has made all of us more prettier, handsome, and beautiful. And I really think that these are some of the steps that we need to take as a nation in consonance with what the professor has advised us. So it is actually a challenge to every institution and the government to work hard so that you can show next year that, listen, we are sitting up. We used to have 60% of our earnings going towards salary. But now, once we did this and that, now it is reduced to 45%, and revenue has also gone up. And that is a better story, and that will be a testament that we can share with the president that we've made some monumental changes. And this will also help us in the international market, because as a nation, you don't want your wage bill to be increasing at the expense of revenue and at the expense of productivity. And it is as easy and as simple for everybody to understand. If your wage bill goes too high, you will have to cut off some. You would have to cut some off. Now, the other thing is, I would beg, there's another bit. Some people skew their wage bill, and that is the other troublesome thing. From an economic standpoint, your CEO's monies can skew all the wages at GBC. So you might have a CEO, nothing against your CEO, whose wage bill alone is a huge chunk. You might be all taking major salaries, but your CEO's monies might make it, or you go to Tema Oil Refinery or any of these governmental institutions where the CEOs, forgive me, for the work they do, are paid commensurate with the work they do. So the negotiations they handle bring about monumental changes to the institution.
Right, let me bring in
Yeah.
my whole central friend, Kpodo. We are situating this whole conversation within productivity. Within productivity.
Yes.
And when we talk about productivity, productivity comes with it motivation.
Yes.
How do we even motivate public sector workers to bring in that revenue that government requires?
Let me quickly react to the comments made by my colleague as he
please do.
made his contribution. First of all, the tips that the police people take on the road are not sanctioned by government. So
it's an illegal activity.
Well, it can be illegal. It can also be friendly, because sometimes when you are driving and you see the policeman, he salutes you, he greets you, and you feel that, oh, the boys are here, also take 2 cedis. You can do it out of your own.
The boys are in Dubai. We don't give them tips. The boys are in Afghanistan. We don't give them tips. You know,
so don't let us bring in the tips that policemen get as part of the conversation about this. Secondly, he's talking about wages and other related emoluments having outstripped government own expenditures. That is another statement which is in severe dispute, because what really has rather gotten out of hand is interest payment. Interest payment. It used to be the case where wages and other emoluments, we call them compensation to public sector workers, used to be ahead, used to be the single largest item in the national budget. But as we are here now, the single largest is interest payment on our loans.
But the loans were used to pay for some of these.
No. Loans were not used to pay salaries. The loans were not used to pay salaries. You see, the loans which we have on our books now, the Eurobond, the other borrowings, when you bring them together and you want to do debt servicing, our interest payments are so high, they outstrip any other set of expenditures. They far outstrip them. So the problem we have rather is an outrageous payment of interest to lenders, some of whom we can identify as our own people who have colluded with foreigners to lend money to Ghana.
Unsubstantiated, but
please don't say it's unsubstantiated. I can give you specific examples, very specific examples about loans that we have teamed up with foreigners to give to the country, and we are all enjoying the interest. Take the $2 billion loan that we took from Frank Templeton from the US. He is a partner to our Minister for Finance. So what are you telling me? Some of these
the
interest payments
is a partner, because Frank Templeton is dead. So are you talking about the company?
Yes. You see, so interest payments have rather outstripped payment of wages. Now let's come back to the professor. The professor delivered his inaugural
lecture.
Yes, professorial lecture at UCC. And he made statements. I have heard him live. You know, he talked about emoluments not being commensurate with output of our public sector workers. And you see, this has made public sector workers angry. They are angry. If you listen to the comment made by Clocksack, Nagrat, they are all evidence of the fact that they were not happy, or they did not accept what the professor suggested. Now, other people, like Professor Jampo and co, who made comments, they were questioning the basis of the data that he used, because he said we had an average wage of over 3,000, whilst productivity was about 1,400. So the gap was high. So what is the data used? What is the numerator? What is the denominator? Before you get those averages. Now, it's been suggested that, as my colleague has just noted, we have this SIGA, State Interest and Governance, what is the other A for? Government enterprises like GPHA, DVLA, NLA, and GBC itself. They are all, and then the government banks, NIB, GCB, their chief executives take hopping wages, very huge wages. In fact, you can find in one of these companies, one of these enterprises, the CEO is earning about 40,000 Ghana cedis per month, whilst the lowest paid worker may be earning 1,000. So what was the data used? What was the total wages he put together? And what were the numbers used per, as the total number of public sector workers? Does it include the head of GPHA? Does that figure include the head of NIB? Does that include the head of GCB or DVLA? You see, so if you add up all of that, as you find on the wages bill, and you divide it by the total number of public sector workers, you get something big. But on the practical level, several people who are working for the public sector earn less than that average of 3,000 plus. They earn less than that. So you see, that is why the associations are angry, because even teachers who have university degrees are not yet earning up to 2,500. They are not. Talk about diploma teachers, talk about nurses, talk about clerks in our various accounts clerks. They are not yet earning up to 3,000. So when you talk in general terms, without breaking it down, as a professor, I would have expected that he would say that, okay, middle level workers have an average of this. Higher management level have an average of this. Then the lower, that's the junior staff, they also have an average level. Maybe he has not done that research, but I will recommend to him that he should proceed from here to do that and see what is the average pay for the lower or the lowest level workers. What is the average for the middle level? What is the average for the top level? And how many people are there in each of these categories before he measures their productivities and then comes out. That is the work of the professor who is a researcher. You see, there was an attempt to see how we could, across the public sector, get fair wages for everybody. Your work should be commensurate with your pay. That was why Professor Mills established the Fair Wages Commission, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And when I was in the public service, I was an active participant in its deliberations. We tried to, match wages with the productivity, the risk that is involved in your work, what you do on a daily basis. Then we tried to fix amount. At that time, you will see that the police were very happy because they saw their work as so risky that that component in determining their wage went up. So police people were very happy at the time that this thing was started. So what happened? This thing did not continue. In fact, regarding lecturers, around the same time, we did a survey around the West African region and found out that a lecturer serving in comparative positions across the region would take $2,080 something US dollars per month. So the lecturer's salary was pegged at that rate. Now, if the scale of the salary would not enable the lecturer to realize that amount, there was a market premium fixed by the Fair Wages Commission for the lecturer so that he could attain that level. But over time, this thing has been ignored, such that about 60% of the premium that would make the lecturers attain that $2,000 thing was wiped off. That's why they went on strike. So the question is, what is the commitment of the government to make sure that workers are properly rewarded? That is what we should be addressing. And this blanket statement that
public sector
workers are getting more than they are working for is not correct. It's not good for our nation. It's not good for public discourse. You see, he made reference to the cost of living. Yes, workers have to pay light bills. They have to buy fuel for their vehicles, if they have. Otherwise, they have to pay for trotro. And these prices keep increasing. Just now, we have inflation running at 27.6%. Have we matched wages with that rate of inflation? How do you expect the ordinary worker to manage within these circumstances? Yesterday, I was listening to a program, let me mention your sister station, Joy FM. They were talking about some ladies having gone to Agbogboleshi to buy things they need for their house. They couldn't. They had to change, go back to Momo, collect a little more, and after that, they had to take taxi home and go and get money from the house before they could pay. It means things have just changed, and people are unable to meet their cost of living. So, you see, the wages need to go on or go along with the
rising price,
the rising cost of living. That is why when in these very hard times, very, very hard times, you go and make such a statement, whether he's denying it or not, many people heard it. I think that what he has done is to provoke a discussion about productivity relating to it to wages. That is true. It is quite clear that there are some of the offices you go, the receptionists are not there, you can't find them. They wear shoes, high heel shoes to work. When they get there, they drop it, wear slippers, and they are walking around. They are painting their lips. When even visitors come, they do not attend. These things do exist. That's why we have a managerial unit within each organization, the supervisory unit, which we must encourage to supervise the work of people so that their productivity will go up. But a blanket statement that the wages paid are far in excess of the productivity of our workers, well, it's unfortunate. The prof should go back and do the research again. Should look at the top echelon of the public service, look at the middle, and look at the lowest. Then he can come out with a story that we can all hear and be okay. Right now, everybody is angry, to be frank. That is what is happening on the ground. People are angry. University lecturers, university workers are angry. Clocksack is angry. Nagrat is angry. Nat is angry because of this statement. I think what we should do is to rather appease them if we can introduce something that will enable them to meet, even halfway, the high rising cost of living. That is more acceptable than for us to be chastising them for this.
Honorable Adomako Kissi.
Yes.
Anything more to add?
Well,
do we pay workers more to deliver, or it should be the reverse? I
would love to reiterate a few things. That I think that government workers' salaries are a huge chunk of our budget. And we need to find ways and means to improve productivity so that the revenues would go up and as it is, reduce the percentage of revenues spent on salaries.
Prefer some solutions. What should be done?
I cited one example where at the ports, with the introduction of technology, the same number of people are now yielding a lot more to government. I've also cited some changes at certain governmental hotels, and I cited Elmina as an example, where the same number of staff, but with the introduction of technological components,
no milk,
the revenues of the hotel has improved. And DVLA is an example where, as we sit today, DVLA of today's time is not a DVLA of 12 years ago. Revenues have improved, same number of staff, same number of people paid the same amount of money. But so far, I think that it's important that all government institutions look at ways of improving revenue as opposed to just increasing the wage bill. It doesn't help us as a nation. And when every governmental institution, let me cite the example of Kolebu. If revenues of Kolebu Teaching Hospital is improved such that workers are paid much better, our nurses wouldn't be leaving the country. Our nurses and doctors won't leave the country. You understand? And then things will be almost commensurate. After surgery, the amount of revenue they're supposed to get, they get. I mean, I cited an example just 2 days ago. Elsewhere, for instance, when a doctor gets called to see a patient on the ward, he is paid for that. That is not the practice at Kolebu. As it stands, government is losing revenue that it could acquire if the systems were actually in place. Because the doctors go on ward rounds in the morning, and sometimes, if you're lucky, in the evening. And in between, if you call for a doctor's consultation elsewhere, you pay extra for that. And these are revenues that we're losing. So there are many institutions losing revenue. And I am also passionate about, for instance, fire service. There's so much revenue in fire service government is not realizing because we don't have the appropriate technology. How many homes do not have fire extinguishers? Plenty, plenty. And yet we sit on this gold mine where, fire service in Ghana is strictly we should change the thinking. We should be on a preventative, revenue-making fire service whereby every home, whether it is a single bedroom, self-contained, whatever, should be required to have a fire extinguisher, which then would in turn create jobs for the average person. And then there should be fire officers who would go around and check, ensuring that the renter or the landlord has made sure that every home in that enclave has a fire extinguisher. And these are revenue making transactions. Every restaurant in this country, if every restaurant in this country even has a fire extinguisher, we would have created jobs and revenue for government institution. A fine institution like the fire service would have gone up. And this is the productivity that the professor is talking about. As we sit here, fire service men are lounging in their, what have you, with this fine weather. By now a lot of them are basically, eyes closed.
Don't say that. You don't know.
They are their office duties.
I'm just
saying. Administrative
duties.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about productivity here. And don't get me wrong, this is productivity we're talking about. And I really think that as a nation, there are many institutions that need retooling so that they can up their game, generate more money, and fire service will not be with these number of tracks we have. We have limited number of tracks per the population we have in this country. And I really think that these are some of the things that, you know, are in line with what the professor was saying, that productivity as opposed to wages. You know, we're very excited. People come worry you for job. Once they get the job, the next thing you know, oh, I have a church service to go to. I have all-night prayers to go to. And these are also eaten into our productivity. And that is a whole different topic.
For another day.
For another day. I mean, mid-Wednesday, and then government workers and other workers will take time off and go to church. I have nothing against church going, but I really think that these are the things that are costing us as a nation in terms of productivity. And listen, we have to be bold and talk about it and be frank about it, regardless of the political implications. And this is what this man is talking about. Productivity, salary. Productivity, salary. So Honorable Kpodo, I think that you're right about the interest, but I still think that the interest payments are also monies used for compensation. It is not strictly just for capital expenditure. That one there, I'll beg you, because a lot of the projects, there's no project without a human element. There's no project in this country where the labor cost is not factored in. So every loan agreement we've had, even the bridges that are, brick and mortar, there's a labor cost in there. So if you tell me that the interest payments are strictly for capital expenditure, I'll beg to differ.
I think we have a quick reaction then. We talk about other.
Here, we are talking about public sector workers. Who are the public sector workers? They are the civil and local government service workers. They are the nurses and the doctors in our health facilities.
No, but Works and Housing has
yes. Works and Housing, they are all public sector workers.
Exactly.
Yes, and you want to note how are public sector workers paid. They don't take money as salaries from where they work. All public sector wages are paid by the controller and accountant general.
Correct.
And before you get employed, there is a determined wage for you before you enter into a civil service organization or a public or whatever it is. Your wage is determined before you enter. Now, it is not the revenue you generate in the performance of your duties in that place. Let's take DVLA. Let's take NLA.
Passport Office.
It is not the revenue you generate that they use to pay you.
Oh, but it goes, the revenue goes
yes,
into
it goes into the consolidated fund.
Controller General, and
but the difference is that you cannot say that in Passport Office I've generated 2 billion and therefore it should be distributed over us. Your pay slip will still be issued by the controller because the public sector wages have been determined before you even got in. So let's drop the idea that.
But when you do it is individual institutions.
Wait.
You bear in mind the wage bill for that institution.
Honorable.
Yeah.
It is right, as you have said, that every worker should do his best to produce
increase productivity,
whatever he is supposed to do. GRA, SNIT, all of them, they should work hard. You understand the point? But the issue is that your pay is not related to what revenue you generate in your organization. No, it is not. It is the one determined by the Fair Wages Commission, which has been given to the organization to apply. So you have salary level high 15, you have low 15, you have 16L, 16 high, and so on and so forth. That is what you have been employed to take. So that is what will be put into the system at the Controller and Accountant General's Department before they turn out your pay for the month. So it has nothing to do with that. Yes, we should encourage our people. There are maybe other means such as end-of-year bonuses and all that, which if the organization seeks permission from the Ministry of Finance, it can pay to its workers. That is good enough. But again, the Fair Wages Commission started a project, which is the single spine salary. But I can tell you now on authority that the single spine salary has not cut across the public service. And that is why a group...
Still a great start.
Oh, well, this thing started some 10 years ago. Some 10 years ago, in 2011.
It's still improved.
2011, that is when this thing started. Now we are in 2022. So we are even questioning how far with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. How far have they gone? Do we need a change? Do we need any modification? Because they started it, they are implementing it strictly at the public and civil service organizations. But GRA is not under single spine. The Ghana Revenue Authority has their own salary structure, which is not part of the single spine salary. It's not. If you like.
But the police service is.
The police service, yes. That's why I'm saying that the Fair Wages Commission sat down and determined what a policeman as a constable or a sergeant should get. So it is in their document, which we are working with, but not someone who is a clerk at local government service. No matter what he does, his salary is tied to what either 10L or 10 high, 11 or 12. That's what happens. So we should encourage our workers through other small motivational means to increase their productivity. But they are not paid from the revenues they generate in their. That is why sometimes I must agree with you that's why sometimes they do petty thieving. They take yes.
Is that petty free?
Yes. They do it. They take paper from the office. When you send them to market to collect revenue, they put some in their pocket.
Anyway, we'll end that conversation.
So, but we need to motivate our workers to work hard, and we should look at their pay. We shouldn't make generalized statements that the average pay
they are overpaid
is higher than their productivity. What do you mean by being overpaid? If you say you have not said that they are overpaid, but in another way you say that there is a gap between their productivity and their wages, that the wages are 3,000
plus.
Other
variables.
Yeah, so yes, that is why, for instance, I'm suggesting that, okay, let's look at the various levels of work. Am I a junior staff? Am I a management staff? Or am I a director staff? So these are the things we should look at.
All right, we are on the weekly press review, and so far we've been looking at the Green Ghana project over payment of public sector workers. We'll go for a quick breather. When we come back, we're looking at Ghana recording 5 cases of monkeypox, and we know there's a surge in COVID cases as well. And we'll come back to talk about the issue about Ex-Gratia. And I know many people would want to contribute to that. Just be with us. We'll be back shortly.
Baptist Church International in Kumasi, Ghana. I'd like to welcome you to join us here on GTV every Saturday morning from 6:30 to 7 a.m. Please join us as we discuss the scriptures each and every Saturday morning. God bless you.
Kings and nations tremble at his voice. All creation rises.
Good morning. It's a good morning, and we serve you breakfast.
Not just any breakfast.
Sizzling helping.
And there's much more on offer on GTV Breakfast.
So what's your pleasure than Votrasia at that time of the morning?
You want it served buffet style, complimentary breakfast?
On-site restaurant?
Or room service?
We've got you covered.
From Monday to Friday at 6 a.m.
With a trusted team.
So never skip breakfast.
On GTV Breakfast.
Welcome back to the program, and we're discussing key issues that has gone on within the week, and you can also join the conversation. And when you look at your screen carefully, you see the WhatsApp number there. You can send in your messages via that number. And so far we've been looking at the Green Ghana project, where we are to plant trees wherever we find ourselves, and the president has done so. Other government officials are also doing this. They have been seedlings within the districts where you can get it, so that you can also plant yours. Before the break, we were talking about overpayment of public sector workers and tying it in with productivity. And we'll talk about monkeypox. Ghana has recorded 5 cases. Because you're a medical doctor, let me bring you in first, then I'll bring in my friend here.
That's right. Yeah. So I think what is important as a nation, our health is tied to our productivity. So we're still back at the same thing. And what is important is that I think that per the way things are going, from Ebola to COVID and now to this new deal, which is the monkeypox, I really think that we need to, as a nation, strategically consider health as a national security issue. And I really say that because of, with the greatest respect, that tiny particle COVID has taken over 1 million lives in the Americas, even considering all the various facilities they have for health. And in Africa, more specifically in Ghana, we were just fortunate through some unforeseen circumstances and the, astute nature of our president to be forgiven, or to be, lucky with the ravages of COVID. And I think that our health should now be part of our national security agenda, because if we're not careful, who knows what next disease might be coming. And if it is more deadly than COVID, it can destabilize our nation. And I really think that every person in this country now ought to be very mindful about the importance of health. And I like that mantra, health first. And if we don't put health first, we will be taken by surprise. Now, the beautiful thing is that the measures we need to take as a nation for prevention of smallpox is similar to COVID. And unfortunately, a lot of us have relaxed on our preventative measures, washing our hands, using the hand sanitizer, keeping a distance, being mindful and careful of where you go, your environment. And I really think that we need to come back to basics again and remind ourselves and be mindful of the fact that times really have changed. Those social events that do not matter or do not need our presence, we ought to abstain. And I'm sorry to politicians that we still have to expose ourselves to these things, and we ought to also be very careful and mindful. And I'll plead with the average Ghanaian, if you are feeling sick, let's report to a health facility, because the earlier detection of this virus is very important in terms of your survival and also your care and management. And when you see something out of the ordinary for any illness, don't resort to herbal remedy without reporting. As a country, one of our challenges is underreporting of incidents when they happen. People go to a prayer camp before they go to hospital. And I really think that some lives were lost to COVID, which were not reported.
Yes.
Because of that. and I'll plead with the average pastor, preacher there to encourage and educate their people at the pulpit, because 70% of this country are literally Christians. And on Sunday, in 2 days from now, I had somebody visit from UK, and he was like, on a Sunday there's traffic. It's unimaginable for him. And I said, hey, Sundays are the big deal. You know, you have everybody going to church. And that is Ghana for us. We're very religious, but I really think that because of our religiosity and our Christian, you know, affiliation as a nation, more so than the traditional thing, which was our thing, I think they are a huge stakeholder. And I'll pray that this Sunday they spare maybe about just 5 minutes. And if they can't talk about it, they can contact a local health directorate to come and just share a word on the preventative measures so that this smallpox thing doesn't also, you know, erupt into another nightmare for us. It's expensive to keep people healthy, but likewise expensive if you don't. As they say, if you think peace is expensive, try war. And in this fashion, we'll say, if you think health is expensive, try cost of a refrigerator to keep you before burial. And on that note, I really think that Ghanaians should be mindful, and I'm making a case, and this one I'm talking to national security. In as much as they are worried about Boko Haram, deadly diseases are also troublesome. Yes. And they ought to take our health as a nation very serious, and more importantly, factor it into the national security apparatus, because their funds are huge. You know, that's why I'm talking about national security. If you put health under national security, we'll have more funds towards the prevention. And the Americans have done that. I was looking at the budget for America recently, and the budget put towards health under a national security agenda. I mean, Trump did some things which were good. He increased the military budget and increased monies for health. And I think that we need to mirror that in our nation, where health budget is as close and as worrisome. You know, one of the beautiful things in this country, if you're a service person, your money comes on time. But go to the health sector, it's different. Nurses will cry, their monies are not in. Doctors will cry, our money's in. You know, I'm just saying. and I think that we need to look at that. You know, in a pandemic era, there are people who are doing vaccination, and their monies have also been locked up a little bit. And I'm using this medium to say that if it is put at the forefront as a national security matter, then all of these service people doing vaccination, doing the front end work, will see their remunerations on time, so that they are motivated to do and do more. And that is my plea today, that it's not enough of lip service, enough of promises. We all have to work hard to make sure that our health as a nation is top priority, top notch, because I think health workers are ready to work for the Ghanaian people. And if they are not frustrated, they won't leave the country. And on that note, I'll also do the thing that we pledge largely, we take an oath to protect lives as health workers. And there's no better place to serve in this earth than your home country. So I'll plead with health workers who are considering exit. We can make Ghana as great as wherever you want to go, if you just do your possible best in your one corner. You know, so thank you very much for.
Yes, I'll come back to you to find out what measures we can adopt to avert further surge. Yes. So, but let me give Honorable Kpodo the opportunity to.
I cannot but agree with my colleague that when it comes to health issues, we can even classify them as national security threats. So we should give it the necessary attention. I don't know the origin of monkeypox.
It's been there.
I saw something on the
Internet.
TV where there were blisters in the palm of. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can say blisters.
Yes. So Doc will know better. In fact, I will even want to find out from him, is it possible for monkeypox to also become a pandemic? Can it become a pandemic?
It is actually
very well,
too.
very
so,
well.
Yeah.
What I have heard so far is that we should still restrain ourselves from shaking hands.
Absolutely.
Because you could pick it from there. Now, the question will be, what will be our preparedness? That is why I agree with him that we should take it as a national security risk. What is our preparedness? As it has just shown. You know, COVID started with some 3 cases.
Yeah.
When it first came, we were prepared at the airport and all that. Then, bam, the thing started coming.
And taking lives.
Taking lives.
Very important lives.
Yes. Some of our colleagues in Parliament also suffered from it. So, you see, you are showing it on the screen. So, the issue is, what is our preparedness to counter it?
Yeah.
Is it possible to become another pandemic which we are going to face? Please, the Ghana Health Service should start its work now, public education and preventive measures. I listened to a program on...
another network?
Yes, radio.
Okay.
Radio. And a health director was interviewed. He said that he was not worried about monkeypox. He was not worried. Yes, because they asked him, are you as worried about monkeypox as COVID? He said he was not worried about monkeypox. So I don't know whether...
answer.
Yes, but that's the answer. Is it suggestive of the fact that...
Perhaps within a particular context.
Yes, maybe it's suggestive that it cannot spread. I think this was exactly what I saw.
That's wise.
It cannot spread as fast and as wide as COVID. But if there is anything we can do, if it is transferable, then they should start the education right now and take all the necessary measures and then get prepared, because even COVID, which we thought is gone, is said to be returning gradually. I don't know whether because we stopped wearing nose masks.
But Doc, there is this perception that...
So, Doc,
yeah,
you take it up. You are the medical people. I will defer to you.
Precautionary measures.
Yes. Just let's take the necessary measures that will not make it become another pandemic in our society.
I think the Ghana Health Services, has made some public engagements. Sometimes we're not everywhere to watch it, but as Honorable, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje has had some interactions with Ministry of Information, and I really think that also locally, that's why I was saying that the churches should engage or try to engage the local health directorate. It's unfortunate that the health director will say that, because there's no disease that we cannot be worried about. What is key is identifying the illness. What is key is reporting in time, and what is key is containment. And we need to contain this so that it doesn't, cross the 100 and then the 1,000, and then
is there a cure?
At the moment, I think we manage, but there's no one cure.
You said there is no cure.
But there's this perception that it is something from the West to
that is a
yes.
no. Let me say this on your show. If it comes to virology, if it comes to the Western world, let me be very categorical in this, that quote unquote, if they really wanted to wipe us out, there are so many ways to do that, and it wouldn't be necessarily through monkeypox. I mean, not necessarily to that. And I really think that, listen, I've lived in the Western world for some time before, and even there's propaganda, okay? And sometimes, unfortunately, in our bit of of this part of the world, when we hear propaganda and it is coming from quote unquote white people, we think it is the Holy Grail. But let's be mindful of the fact that even in the Americas, even in the UKs, there's propaganda. I've seen videos of products that people have made damning stories about because they don't like them. Even Nike we all wear in this country, Adidas, not to just to state a few brands. You may watch some videos and be so disgusted by the videos and to stop even using these products. And I really think that when we consume these things as a nation, we need to be mindful and guided by the fact that if you see 3 white men talking about something, it doesn't mean that it is a gospel truth. Okay. Because there are propagandists even in the Western world. Just as, you know, political parties in this country can do propaganda work. The same thing applies there. So I'll beg of them, you know, on WhatsApp, once there's quote unquote, or you both talking, we take it that, hey, it is the truth. Please be mindful. Seek counsel from people who are knowledgeable in that field. And I always say this, my one rule that keeps me alive, if I have carpentry needs, I go to a carpenter. If I have medical needs, I go to the hospital. You know, when I need visions and interpretation, I go to the church. And even in the church, there are those who handle dreams and there are those who handle healing. I better go to the healing if I need healing. You understand? So Ghanaians should be minded by that when you have electrical needs, you go to the electrician. When you have carpentry needs, you go to the carpenter. Mason needs, you go to the mason. And when it comes to health,
get to the doctor.
Go to the house where the information is appropriate for you and for your family. And if we do this as a nation and we're guided by that, and in concluding to that, prayers anywhere can help. Sometimes people will want to go to a prayer house and be waiting instead of coming to the hospital. Let them pray for you and be at the hospital so that you get the benefit of the 2 worlds, physical and spiritual. Not just spiritual. And when Christ went to bring Lazarus out, he had men remove the stone. So there's a role for men in our world. Manpower and then spiritual powers can come together to make us better. So in all seriousness, this health issue should be put on the national security apparatus as a concern, and not just smallpox. I'm anticipating now that, considering the challenges we're having with our environment, climate change, COVID, Ebola, some new thing might be also coming up that we don't even know. And it is important that we take our health serious as a nation. It has crumpled Italy. It has crumpled America in terms of the economy. And in as much as Russia and Ukraine has come, I think the impact of COVID, as we now know, has been on the upper side than Russia and Ukraine. And we can only know if it's going to get worse as the days go by in terms of Russia and Ukraine. But as it stands now, I think hotel industries that were crumpled, airline industries that were crumpled, were all done by just this micro, organism, COVID. And we ought to be minded by that and be very careful, because if something untoward should happen to this country on a large scale in terms of health, we are in trouble.
Right. I have Mauli from East Legon.
Do you have
a
clinic?
Pick few comments from our viewers.
Private clinic.
And
Mauli,
Honorable Mauli from East Legon, I think he is responding to our earlier topic on the Green Ghana project. He says, the point Honorable is making, I guess Honorable Kpodo, should be considered very seriously. We should not abandon the exercise because we have completed what we have to do today. There should be a check-up walk some other time, which would be solely based on checking up on the already planted trees and replanting those which couldn't grow. And that is coming from Mauli from East Legon. I am really enjoying your program, Green Ghana Project. Something is really bothering me, and I want your guests to educate me a little for clearer understanding, please. In my village in the Volta region, whole West people are still cutting trees for commercial purposes, and I do not understand why so. My name is Edwin from Ebri. So Edwin sent this one from Ebri, whole north.
Whole West.
Yes. Still cutting trees.
Yes.
Yeah.
What they are cutting the trees for?
Commercial purposes.
Yeah, to either build houses or for charcoal.
For charcoal, yeah.
Yeah, if they are using the trees for charcoal, then there is a problem which runs back to the government. What is the price of gas? We have been educating people and persuading them to use gas. Now, the price of gas has shot through the roof. So we are gradually discouraging people from using the gas and then sending them back to the bush to go and get, to cut trees for firewood or for converting into charcoal to be able to cook in their homes. So the government should give attention to the pricing of gas products so that people will be encouraged. We used to give them free cylinders, but now, apart from seizing that, the price of gas has shot through the roof. People go to gas stations now. Instead of filling the whole bottle, they say, oh, I have 25 cedis. Give me only 25. You go home and use it. When it's finished, you go back and take the rest, if you get more money. Otherwise, you resort to charcoal.
Right.
So that is a major problem which the government has to address.
Seth from La says, it's quite worrying that our natural environment is being destroyed on daily basis. I saw this afternoon that the trees along the sides of the road to the East Legon underbridge have been destroyed irresponsibly. Why are we destroying our fauna? That is a question he's asking. And this one says, please tell Doc to go back to the clinic and stop talking. And stop talking. He should go around the Awoshi Road. The rails are falling and can create accidents on the road. He should.
Yes.
Dog,
tell him that.
This one is coming from somebody within your constituency.
No, we need
the Awoshi area.
We need doctors also in Parliament.
The rails are falling off. Okay, let me see.
That we need doctors also in Parliament.
This is my knowledge about our forest in Ghana. In the 1976, I traveled from Accra to the then Upper region, and there was a tree canopy along the road from Pokwasi in Accra, virtually all the way to Bogatanga and beyond. Our unregulated forest exploitation has led to the depletion of the tree cover and was made worse by the fire that swept this country in the 1983s. One would wish to see a major drive towards reforestation as the US and the Canadians do. In 1989, whilst buying plantain somewhere around Offenso on my way to Bogatanga, the plantain seller told me that the vast area around here, which looked like a devastated savanna, was in fact a cocoa farm. Very sad. Can we study the Americans' approach, including legislation and enforcement for reforestation? We can do something about it to improve our forest cover. Seth from La. I have another one here. It's quite worrying that our natural environment, okay, this one I have read. Why are we destroying our fauna? Okay, please tell Doug. I've read that one too. Okay, let's get to our final lab. Ex-Gratia. Yes, we have only 5 minutes to discuss this.
No. You have to ask the producer to extend the time.
Producer, my guest says you should extend the time.
I think, well, let him go. If not,
Yes.
I just have a short thing to share on that.
You see, the basis for payment of salaries, allowances, retirement benefits, and others to Article 71 officers is the Article 71 of the Constitution. And it lists all the people. Maybe we don't have time enough for me to read out all. It covers the president, the ministers, MPs, speakers of parliament, and all that. So it is constitutional to pay emoluments to Article 71 office holders, to our MPs, such as my colleague and myself. It is constitutional to pay us. Now, the process is such that whatever is paid to us eventually when we leave, you people describe as ex-gratia. But I have the document here. There's no mention of ex-gratia. There's no mention of ex-gratia. what happens is that the final thing that is paid is salary arrears and a gratuity. Salary arrears and a gratuity. Why do salary arrears arise? When you go to Parliament or when you become a Council of State member, you, for the whole period of the 4 years, supposed not to be like that, but that's how it has been. For the whole period of your tenure, you are on the salaries and allowances of the previous Council of State or the previous Parliament. As we are sitting here now, my colleague and I are being paid salaries for the 7th Parliament. So we are marking time on the last salary point of the previous Parliament. That is what is happening. If they give public sector workers 4%, 11%, 10%, Parliament or Council of State members will not enjoy any increase in their salaries. And the reason is that there's a provision in that article which states clearly that the president will set up an emolument committee, presidential emolument committee, which will make a recommendation based on which Parliament will approve for the executive and the executive will approve for Parliament. You see the point? And oftentimes, this takes almost 3 to 4 years for the committee to be set up. So until that committee comes out, you are on the previous parliamentary salary or previous salary of this. So the ex-gratia you people are talking about is a combination of salary arrears. Togbe admitted that he took salaries. But what he took was the salary for the 7th Council of State. So for the 6th Council of State. So at the end of the 7th Council of State, term of Council of State, they fix new salaries, which they should have been taken right from day one. But because they were marking time on the 6th Council of State conditions of service, at the end of it all, they have to pay them arrears of salary. The salary that Togbe admitted he had taken was not what he should be taking. So when it is determined, they have to calculate year by year what arrears he had to take. So that is part of what you describe as ex-gratia. The gratuity is determined by a number of months' salary for every year served. That is the award. You see the point? So there are two things. It's not just a straight a figure that, oh, after 4 years, Togbe was sitting down there and they paid 365,000 to his account. And if you listen to him carefully, even this morning whilst coming here, I heard him again. He talked about part-time work. He talked about salary. And he said the amount paid him had tax elements. And that was what prompted him to even inquire what was paid to him. We don't tax gratuity. Gratuity is not taxed. So what was taxed?
Unfortunately, my time is up.
That's why I asked you for extension. What was taxed was his salary arrears. Do you understand the point? So this is how things are worked out. Well, Togbe decided that he didn't want the gratuity and the arrears. Well, that is a personal decision for which we commend him. He has not committed any crime. And the attempt by Paul Adomako to denigrate him is wrong. It's wrong.
Yes, I think...
You said you had a quick comment.
Yes, I really think that benefits need to kick in when you start work. And that would also reduce.
But that is not the case.
No, Honorable, hear me out. I understand the current status quo. And what I'm saying is that in the interest of all of us, it is almost important that we consider making sure that benefits kick in when you start working. And that way, your gratuity is going to be the only thing coming. And nobody will come and say that your salary arrears is part
of your ex-gratia.
So that's what I'm saying, that as it stands now, we need to push to an era where once you get sworn in, you are getting, let me say, the 8th Parliament salary, not the 7th Parliament salary.
Exactly.
And that is a challenge.
I raised this matter on the floor, and the majority leader promised that he was going to get the president to set up the committee.
On other programs, we'll delve more into this because
you should have dealt
know
with
there's
this.
public outcry. Yes, it's
topic.
a huge, yes, and oftentimes Ex-Gratia issues, yes, goes and come
Most
back. And
misunderstood.
Well, we will need you to explain to us what exactly it is, because most of the public feel is too huge an amount to go to. Yes, so maybe on in other programs, current affairs programs, I'm sure they will discuss it. So we have been here looking
Invite me, I will come and explain.
the Green Ghana project
or
payment of public sector workers, the monkeypox outbreak here in Ghana, and we've been also talking about Ex-Gratia in relation to Togbi the Agbubumefia of Asogli, rejecting that amount and taking it back to state coffers. I've been doing this with Honorable Benjamin Kpodo, who is the MP for Ho Central, and MP for Anyaa Sowutuom Dr. Dickson, Adomako, Kissi. My name is Rebekah Awuah. Let's meet again.
Hello, Becky.
Yes,